Bereshus Rabbi Shechter, Shlita, Talmidim and Talmidot. There was a little bit of a discussion where this event should be held. Originally it was not supposed to be here, but for whatever reason it was decided it should be here. And Baruch Hashem, it's incredibly meaningful that the room is absolutely full. Yeah, Asher Kochachem. Rabbi Moshe Goldsmith and his wife Leia, the mayor and Mayor Tzin of Itamar, both come from New York City, so if you speak English you probably will understand this evening. 26 years ago they picked up their bags, moved to Eretz Yisrael, and after about a year in Eretz Yisrael they moved to Itamar, which at that time only had about a dozen families. As of now there are 1,200 people, Bli Ayin Hara, living in Itamar. Rabbi Goldsmith founded a yeshiva in Itamar, and Rabbi Goldsmith is actually a Rebbe by profession in the yeshiva in Itamar. He has a part-time job that is also a full-time job that is also a volunteer, and that is being the mayor of the city. For the past 6 years, Rabbi Goldsmith was the mayor, volunteer mayor, a member of the Itamar emergency response team, which unfortunately was among the first responders to the Fogel home after last week's events. A number of years earlier, there was another incident that his response team was involved with, and were involved in a gun battle with terrorists. Just in terms of the schedule for this evening, unfortunately we started late, we apologize. Rabbi Goldsmith will show a short video. After that, I think Mrs. Goldsmith will speak for a few moments, and then followed by the mayor, and I believe they said they'd be happy to take some questions and answers, and that's the schedule for this evening. So, B'chavod Rav, it's tremendous zechus for us at Yeshiva University to have the mayor of Itamar, Rabbi Goldsmith.
Good evening, everybody. It's my tremendous pleasure to be here, to stand in front of such a wonderful crowd. Of course, Rabbanim Mechubadim. And to stand here and to represent a community, an amazing community of Itamar. And tonight I hope you're going to get the feeling of what Itamar is all about. We're going to begin by a short movie that we made about Itamar about a year ago to see what life is like on our community. I want to invite my wife Leia, a very powerful inspiration behind a lot of things that go on in Itamar, to say a few words.
Thank you very much for having us. This is awesome. The last 2.5 weeks since the terrible night that I'm sure you've all heard about have been a blur. There hasn't been a day, there hasn't been a night. I don't know who I am, I don't know who anyone is. And the first real time I had to sit and have a minute to think was actually here in the United States. Last week, at the last minute, our friends from New York pressured us and said, we know you're very, very busy on Itamar now. Obviously, you have a situation on your hands, but now your voice has to be heard. You're coming. So we bought tickets, we came, it's been a whirlwind, and finally on Shabbat, I sat down in Shul in New Jersey, of all places, and holding the siddur, holding the chumash in my hand, I opened up the haftarah of Parshat Shmini. And the nechama of the words of Yecheskel, Lamed Vav. There will come a day that I will stop the desecration of my nation being scattered all over the world, far away from home. And I will collect you back, and I will rejuvenate your cities that have laid desolate, and I will bring my people back home. And if I didn't know then I definitely realized what a zchut our generation has. Think about the time you're living in. You have a state of Israel. You have a beautiful built country. When my husband and I came to the Shomron 26 years ago, we came to a little place that was a little brown hill with some thorns and rocks, maybe a tree or two. a few tiny little houses, and over that time, we have seen the materialization of the Nivu'ah. We've seen it turn green. We've seen the bracha of the fruit and the land giving over its shefa, its bounty, to the chosen people that Hashem chose to live in this land. Going to the Parsha, Itamar and Elazar, is there anything I can say? They live down the block from my house. Itamar and Elazar, it's not just people that once lived. They're alive in you. We're closing a circle in time now, people. Closing a circle in time. We're going back to the original point where we started. And there may be those that stand against us. Much of the world order marches against us, but we march forward. We march forward because we're strong and because we believe in the Nivu'ah that we just read about in the Haftarah, because we see it coming true. So I want to bless all of you to come and visit us on Itamar, the most beautiful place in Israel. And if you're wondering where it is, it's right in the heart. It's right in the center. It's less than an hour from every place. It's not some faraway land. Thank you.
What I want to do now, in a minute, I'm going to show you a PowerPoint display of the terrible massacre. We're going to see the house of the Fogel house and some things surrounding Itamar. We all heard, of course, 2 weeks ago about this terrible massacre. I had the amazing privilege on Thursday night, right before this terrible massacre, standing next to Rav Fogel. I was learning Gemara with a Chavruta, and I look to my right, and all of a sudden I see Rav Udi, and I look 3 times in his direction because I saw a white light radiating from his face. I didn't know until a day later why. There's no doubt that his soul was already connected to Kisei HaKavod. As we know, those who give their lives for Israel, the martyrs of Israel, the Kedoshim, have the highest place in heaven. For the community to lose a special family like this, there's no words to describe the pain. Rav Udi and his family, his wonderful family, they lived in Gush Katif, in a place called Nitzarim, and after they were thrown out of their houses, it didn't break their spirit to continue a life of building Israel. And after going to Ariel, which is a big city in Shomron, they decided to join forces with us on Itamar to continue the dream of building Eretz Yisrael. And that is where they found, unfortunately, their death. We see the baby Hadass, this wonderful, wonderful new child born in this world that really didn't get a chance to even have a name shine. But her soul right now is with us here in this room because this amazing family has caused the entire Jewish world to wake up, to realize Ad Kan. We can't continue our lives the way we were yesterday. We have to go on and realize, wake up. How are we devoting our lives? What are we doing with ourselves? Are we doing everything we can for our people, for our future? This wasn't a murder like a regular murder. These people, these angels, were targeted because they represent Eretz Yisrael. They don't only represent Eretz Yisrael, they represent every Jew in the entire world. And these 5 souls, these 5 books of the Torah, are radiating throughout the entire world and saying, wake up. Where are you? We have a beautiful land, we have a beautiful homeland. Let's build Israel. Let us shine the light of the Jewish nation to the world. Let us not forget what our purpose is in this world. We didn't come into this world to build huge mansions, to buy fancy cars, to be professors. The most important thing is to be close to God, to know our purpose as a nation of Israel. And from there, we have to be professors. We have to, of course, know how to work and build a country, because it's also important. But first and foremost, we must know that we are connected to the Jewish nation and the God of the universe. And this family, again, has been portraying this message throughout the entire world in their way from heaven above. And I'm standing right here with the entire community of Itamar, which is the most simplest community in the world. You just saw it for yourselves in that movie that was put together. People just want to live a life of peace in Israel, that every day have to deal with things that most people don't know in their lifetimes. They want to continue to hold on to the land and build Israel and study Torah and prepare the future for everyone that is sitting here in this room right now and every Jew in the world, because Bezrat Hashem, with God's help, we're going to build the Beit HaMikdash, the temple will return, and the redemption will come. But it requires avodah, hard work. In the movie that you saw, the Shabo massacre, which occurred in 2002, and Itamar is known, unfortunately, more terror attacks than any other community in Israel. 22 Kiddushim in 27 years. For a small community with 28 orphans, you may say to yourselves, how can we continue? But the answer is, we're going to continue and we're going to grow. And as a response of the Shabo massacre, as you can see here, through the bullet holes in the pot, the dough that she was preparing to make chalot for Shabbat on Thursday night was rising in the pot. When the terrorists came in and killed a mother with her children and had a response team on Itamar. This is what the house looked the next day. It looked like. But what was our response? Our response was to go on to build. You see here, this neighborhood, which eventually became the Fogel neighborhood, was our response. Right now, we're looking at the village of Awalta. This village comes from the name Ma'avar, meaning a transit point, a stopover. It is located on Route 60. Route 60 is the famous route. It's called Derech Avot, the path of our forefathers, extending down Hebron, all the way up to Shechem. And it's on this route that the village of Awalta, which was a Ma'avar, Itamar, we read about it in Parshat Shmini, this week's portion, in Elazar, the sons of Aaron HaKohen are buried. From this holy village, the terrorists left to come and murder and destroy a family on Leil Shabbat. Right now, we're looking at the exact spot where the terrorists crossed over the electric fence. Electric fence meaning that when someone touches the fence, it sends off a signal. And the signal reaches the command room, and a jeep immediately comes to respond. And that's what happened at 9:05 on Leil Shabbat. The terrorists touched the fence, it climbed over, the jeep responded, and it got down, but it didn't see anything. It was a very misty night, and it was very, very difficult to see. And unfortunately, there are always many false alarms with a lot of wild animals that run along the fence. And the Jeep returned. But the terrorists continued making their way into the community of Itamar. At this moment, families like myself, we were all in our houses celebrating the beautiful Shabbat. We were singing Zmirot, beautiful meals. We had no idea, of course, what was going on in the forest below. What were they planning for us? You see right now, here is a picture of the forest. Right under the Fogel house, they planned to attack the neighbor that was the newest neighbor of Itamar. And now we're looking at the Fogel house itself. You see the sign, and here's a picture of the Fogel house. When terrorists came, they entered the neighboring house to the Fogel house, only to find that no one was home, Baruch Hashem. It was the son of Rabbi Natan Chai, the rabbi of Itamar. They went away for Shabbat. And the terrorists noticed in the Fogel house there was a beautiful Oneg Shabbat going on. The 7th grade girls of Itamar were singing and talking Torah and having a beautiful Shabbos experience. And they patiently waited, the terrorists, until the girls finished around 10:15. And Tamar, doing the mitzvah of escorting her friends, left with them and left her home. At that moment, the terrorists got up, they entered the house, and they locked the door from the inside, and they began to go from room to room, brutally murdering little children, little hadas, parents. And a miracle, when they ran out of the house through the window, you could see next to the air conditioner, the picture over here, that's the window that they escaped. They stepped on some of the boys sleeping on the couch. And the boys didn't feel anything, they didn't wake up, and they saved their lives. They ran behind the shed and got away. At 11:05, the fence sounded again, the alarm. Again, the Jeep went down, didn't see anything, and they got away. At that moment, no one knew what was going on. Tamar returns about 12:30 after having another Oneg Shabbat, and she tries to get into her house, and the door is locked. She looks through the window, she noticed that there are mud tracks leading to the bedroom. She's frightened. She returns to a neighbor, and the husband comes back with a rifle, and they try to get in, the door's locked. They manage to wake up the boys sleeping on the couch, who opens the door from the inside. And then he thinks, of course, the parents are probably sleeping. They probably went to sleep and forgot and locked the door. So Tamar goes into the bedroom, and then she finds her parents and her sister and her brothers all murdered. She runs out and screams. The neighbor shoots in the air. And at this moment, I was fast asleep in my home. And as a member of the response team, it was 5 to 1 in the morning when I received the emergency call. My wife Leia says the alarm's going off. And I hear immediately, quickly move, there are shots being fired in the community. I grab my rifle, I grab my vest, and I tell Leia to lock the door and let the children sleep, don't wake them up. I don't want them to be frightened that their father ran out now. I run out, I join forces with the team. We make our way to the Fogel house. At that moment, of course, I'm hearing, as I'm running, people are killed. I get to the entrance of the house, and I meet one of my friends coming out, and he's telling me what he saw inside. I walk to the door. I stand still. I stop myself. I do not want to look at this terrible nightmare. It wasn't over. We continued to run. Even before I knew exactly who and what, we had to run and make sure that these terrorists weren't running from house to house, doing more and more murderers and slayings. It took us a few hours to cover every home, to make sure everyone was okay. For us, Shabbat was over, it was Pikuach Nefesh, of course. And everyone was called to make sure they're okay. And this is how the terrible night just began for us. It's been one long day. It was the hardest, probably, period of my life, the last few days. If you look on the sign over here, the sign that wishes Mazel Tov to this beautiful family of the birth of Hadass is still on the door. The Mishpachat Fogel, Mazal Tov. Holadat Habat Hadass. Harbei Nachad Mekulam, Mishpachat Itamar. Wishing her Mazel Tov on the birth of this beautiful baby. Unfortunately, they will never raise her. But as I mentioned before, the power of Hadass and this wonderful family is going to remain with every one of us forever, because we will no longer remain silent about Israel. From here we will go on, and we will grow, and we persevere. Thank you. Well, right now, they're staying with the grandparents in Jerusalem. It's not easy. Tamar's been coming back to Itamar for school. But right now, it's going to be a very hard decision exactly where they're going to be and what their future is going to be. They have a great family. The family is a tremendous family. The father, the grandfather, Chaim Fogel, is a great builder of Israel. And of course, the other side, the Ben Yishai family, a great Talmud Chacham. Very, very special families. There's a lot of children and a lot of support. As we all know, Tamar is a mother of Israel. Her voice has been heard throughout the world. When I went to pay a Yeshiva call, just to see her smile gave me strength.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Moshe Goldsmith.
Where?
I would like to know what was the immediate response from the Israeli government to this tragedy?
Okay. First of all, the army. You should all know that the Israeli army is our family. Every one of our children serve in the army. My son is a commando unit in the Israeli army. And obviously, when Jewish blood is spilled, everyone's heart is broken. And this terrible, terrible tragedy broke the hearts of every Israeli in Israel. When officers broke down when they entered the house, crying, that was the immediate response, to cry. But then again, as Jews, we're going to have to go on. We had meetings with the army, discussing our security system, how to improve our security system. There's a lot more to improve. Itamar, again, is a small group, a small community, which has the largest landmass of any other community in Judea and Samaria, which extends all the way to the beginning of the descent of the Jordan Valley. And we've been targeted over the years, as I mentioned, because when you're on the front line and you're leading Am Yisrael forward, unfortunately you're targeted, you have the most casualties. And the army, it works hard to try to prevent infiltrations. We have a great security crew on Itamar. We have a security camera, we have a fence. We have a lot more, of course, to add. We need more cameras. The terrorists gathered information for many months, apparently, and knew exactly where there was a blind spot in the camera to enter the community. And we have some promises from the army, and we do hope they will fulfill them soon. And again, we're working very hard. If not, we're going to have to ourselves raise the money for another camera.
Are you satisfied with the response of the American community?
Sorry?
Are you satisfied with the response of the American community?
Okay.
I know that is very political happening. Personally, what I didn't see happening, I didn't see people writing letters. We didn't see the word written too. I didn't see the emotional response. And that's okay. But how do you feel in the community terms about our response to the tragedy?
Okay, I didn't hear everything, but you want to know about the response of the American community.
Are you happy with it? Would you like us to do something else?
Okay, first of all, I'm amazed by the response of the American community. Don't get me wrong. I think, we got off the plane. I had no idea that we'd have such an amazing response of people wanting to hear our story. Because again, we're not representing a personal story. We're representing a story of Am Yisrael. And the fact that so many wonderful communities have opened up their arms to want to hear, to listen. What can we do? The calls don't stop coming in. It's a sign of Am Yisrael Chai. So we're very happy with the response.
Hello there, my name is Fogel, and I was wondering, what is going on with in terms of the events? What is the actions that are taking place to create? Are they being created events?
Oh, the fence. I'm sorry. Okay, it's very bad. Okay, it's not the sound. A fence. You're talking about our expanding our fence or making it? I don't understand the question exactly. Making it bigger?
It's just seeing that the fence. It's a good idea, but it seems like it didn't work as well as I was wondering if
I'll answer this question.
Okay, my wife wants to answer the question.
This is important for you all to know. You're asking about the government and the army and the fence, and you know what? It's the little people in this world that really make a difference. The day after this happened, a family, our youth expressed the will to be active, proactive in doing something to fortify the fence. So a family came from outside of Itamar with a generator and a prefab building and some dogs, and they're living on the other side of the fence. Guys, it's just regular people that do it. They're on the other side of the fence. Think about it.
Don't be shy. I'll answer any question.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, thank you very, very much for coming here tonight to show your story and enlightening. I have a quick question regarding the apprehension of terrorists. Has anything been done capturing to take care of business?
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Anything been done to apprehend terrorists?
Of course, the Israeli army is turning over every stone to try to catch them. They're working very hard. They have certain leads, and God willing, they'll put their hands on those terrorists.
Mayor, thanks so much for coming on and sharing with us this story. What about President Obama and the American political community, how they respond to this? The story was very under Japan, obviously happened exactly at the same time, sort of. So how did our political government and the UN respond to this event? Did they respond, and what did they say? Because it wasn't really that publicized.
Okay. Unfortunately, the world is pressuring Israel to make concessions. And we know the truth. We know that the Jewish nation has given more than any other nation for peace, because we're really a peaceful people. All we want to do is live in our land, live peacefully, live safely in our land, for a mission of being Ola Goyim, to be a light to the nations of the world. We have a purpose. And the world, unfortunately, doesn't realize what Am Yisrael is all about. And we have to work very hard to let our mission be heard. We can't be afraid to tell the American political leaders that the deed to the land of Israel is our Torah. And that's what we have to begin to say. We had the privilege this week of meeting with a congresswoman. And that's what I told the person. I said, I invited her to come to visit Itamar. I told her that the Jewish people just want to live in our land in peace. And Itamar is the center, the Bible Belt of Israel. No one can tell us not to live on the places where Abraham and Jacob and Joseph and Itamar and Elazar, and the history is so powerful in our area. This is where Joshua took the nation of Israel on the Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. It is the center of Israel. We want to live in our land. We have a right to live in our land. We never spoke out against those who want to live in peace. But unfortunately, we're the ones who are going around with bulletproof cars and buses, with our windows protected against rock throwing. And we're the ones that are suffering with terrible, terrible tragedies like the Fogel family. So you can speak out, and I agree with you. The media has really not done much. But everyone that is sitting in this room could do a job in spreading the truth. And be brave. We're part of a great nation. Don't be afraid.
Thank you so much for coming. I was wondering if Itamar responded at all to the apparent bias in the media. How did Itamar respond to the biased media?
How did Itamar respond? Well, Itamar, again, as the simple people of Itamar or the government of Itamar? Well, again, unfortunately, we don't have time. Well, I guess we're fortunate with that at least, that we don't really deal with politics. We're people that are on the ground. The true revolution will come from the ground, with simple people that want to build, and want to continue to grow and to live and to make life. And that's what we're doing. So we're just really not trying to avoid the media and focus on building.